You can't see that. That says, when academic rivals to lovers becomes oppression rivals to lovers. Welcome to my video. Before I actually really get into it, I do want to say there's a lot of trigger warnings for this book. There's murder. There's literally a lynching. Lots of oppression, lots of anti-Semitism. They have a different word for Jewish people in this, but it's anti-Semitism. And I do discuss Nazi Germany. Sorry. But it's kind of impossible to talk about this book in depth without acknowledging how closely it is aligned to Nazi Germany just in fantasy romance, which is it's a lot. It's a lot. So we'll get to that, but I wanted to put a disclaimer. I've been made aware that I did not do a quick plot overview. Sorry, it's 2 weeks later, I have a different haircut and a different camera angle, and my camera keeps telling me I need more light. So I'm going to do this very quickly. So our main character, Lorelei, is a smart but stubborn young folklorist at the top university in the country of Brunenstadt. Under a new king, her, alongside her mentor and a few other students, are selected to go on an expedition to find the Ursprung, also known as the Poland Spring of Power, as I call it in this video. They are selected to find this, and Lorelei is made the second in command over her academic rival, Sylvia. Upon the expedition beginning, it is quickly thrown into a mess because, not a spoiler, the head of their expedition and Lorelei's trusted teacher is murdered. She is murdered, and so now Lorelei, head of the mission, must figure out both where the Poland Spring of Power is and who murdered the professor. And while doing this, she also has to command a group of a bunch of anti-Semitic students. Yeah. So Lorelei and Sylvia essentially team up to try to figure out what the hell is going on, as the magical world is making it impossible for them to do their job, along with the fact that everybody seems to be anti-Semitic. That is the plot overview of what you get. So, here's our breakdown of all the important characters. So, Lorelei, this is our main character. She's here. Ziegler is the professor who is the head of the university and essentially all high education in the main city. She is not from Bernenstadt, or whatever, however the fuck you pronounce the name of the kingdom. She's from a neighboring place that apparently there's no interest in colonizing, which is odd because they've colonized essentially everybody else. So but that's neither here nor there. She has worked under the previous king, and then also Wilhelm here, who is the current king, who we'll get to. Now, Lorelei is the second in command. However, these motherfuckers don't necessarily like that, because they all don't like that she's Yevani, asterisk, Jewish, because they're fucking anti-Semitic. We've reached that point. They all grew up together and are all in some form royalty, mostly dukes or duchesses of their original lands, except Ludwig. Ludwig is a merchant's son, and apparently everybody else kind of bullied him for that, and he's oddly okay with that. Again, a lot of the characters in this book need to unpack some okayness with some sort of form of treatment they've received, but whatever, apparently. Now, I'm going to spoil this. It's so obvious from the back of the book. Sylvia's love interest. Sylvia is from a place called Alb, which was an annexed territory and kingdom. She is blonde, well, like fucking gray hair blonde, like platinum blonde, gray-eyed, crazy hair and eccentric, like literally manic pixie dream girl, except she's Aryan. So she does have a complex, which we'll get to, that she shouldn't be lumped in with everybody else, that her people have struggled. But she also grew up with the king and is friends with him. So it's hard to take that seriously. So, yeah. We'll get more to her. I have an entire fucking section on her. But next we have Adelheid. She's Adelheid. We'll get to her. Johann's the literal, like, most egregious Nazi out of all of them. Like, he's, like, within, like, 20 pages, it was clear that he, like, wanted Lorelai annihilated. So, yeah. And I will say this, too. I think to try to balance out Lorelai and Sylvia's, like, oppression, because there's no better way to discuss this, they made Johann hate Sylvia because she's from, like, another area, like, she's, like, not pure, like, he says pure a lot, but yet he's somehow okay with Adelheid and Heike, who are also from neighboring territories, and so it's never really clear why Sylvia gets the brunt of that, but not them. So the world building's a little rough in this. So keeping that in mind, Heike, like, I'm gonna be 100% honest, Heike is the least important character in this entire book. There are probably townspeople we don't know the name of who have more important roles than Heike has in this entire book. And then Ludwig, who we discussed, Merchant's son, he's the chill motherfucker, okay? He's chill as fuck. He's generally fine with Lorelai. Like, he doesn't really have a problem with Lorelai. So, he's chill. He's chilling here. And then Wilhelm is the new king. Now, let's make a mark. Everybody, oh man, of course you can't fucking see the yellow. Everybody with a yellow mark is friends with Wilhelm the king. They grew up with him. They are friends. So if anybody, Sylvia, tries to tell you that she's not like the others and that she's oppressed, she's friends with the king. And the king has listened to her before. Lorelai and Sylvia are not rocking on the same level, okay? Now, here we are. We've started the expedition, okay? We're on the ship. Surprise! Ziegler says the Poland Spring of Power is in Alb, which is where Sylvia's from. And Sylvia's like, what? And everybody's kind of like, huh? Because none of their research pointed them that direction. And Lorelai's like trying to figure out what the fuck she fucked up. Like, you know, she's like, what the fuck? And Ziegler's kind of like, your methods are what brought me here. And then the next morning, Ziegler's dead. And then the next morning, Ziegler's dead. So, surprise! So now Lorelai's the new leader. And she's tasked by Wilhelm via carrier pigeon to find the murderer and find the Poland Spring of Power, or he will blame the Yvonne, her, because it's easy. And yet she still has this complex that, like, he's an okay king. Like, he's fine. He's threatening to throw you under the bus. Hello? Yeah. And she has to do all of this. She has to be sneaky with her whodunit investigation, her Poirot investigation, because otherwise they'll turn on her more. They already don't like her. So, like, whoopsie daisy, we're in danger. So all sorts of little magic, little things happen. And these are good things. The magical creatures are good. And I will have an entire section devoted to talking about the good things, and so they will be discussed in that. But after some occasions with some magical creatures, we get to Alb, and we get to a village, and Lorelai suffers in Alb, where Sylvia's from, her love interest. She suffers from the oppression she experiences everywhere. So they get to an inn, and the innkeeper doesn't want to let Lorelai in because she's Yevani, and says a bunch of like stereotypical Jewish stereotypes, like she's a thief, she's a viper, like literally like straight out the fucking Nazi playbook. Like, hello Joseph Goebbels, I didn't know you ran an inn. So ultimately Sylvia kind of goes, she'll stay in the same room with me, you're fine, I'll watch her. And there's a festival happening. And now it's important to recognize that while Sylvia is not the Duchess, her mom is, and she is considered like royalty. She's really important to these people. And so they're having this festival, and they invite Sylvia up on stage after telling a story, like a folk story. And she gets on stage, and they're basically start yelling like, we need freedom in Alb. Like everybody's like, yeah, Alb independence. Let's fucking do this. And she gets up there and goes, hey guys, I trust Wilhelm the King with all of my certainty. I believe we should stay in Berlin as part of Bernstadt. I believe in the king. And instead of them going, oh my god, she's not one of us, they go, all right. And so they then go, yeah, glory to the king. Like, they listen to her 100%, which makes the next action particularly concerning. Given the next action is that they pull out a bunch of effigies, and they go, oh, we believe in Wilhelm now? Okay, like, we don't need to burn the effigy of Wilhelm. Let's burn the effigy of the Yeva, the Jew. And all Sylvia does is go up to Lorelai and go, we should get you out of here. Like, we should get you back to the inn. This isn't safe for you. You could have gone on stage and gone, hey guys, the Yevani are not our enemy. And they would have listened to you. If they quelled their rebellion for you, they're gonna quell their hatred of the Yevani for you. So, how am I supposed to like Sylvia? I don't know how I'm supposed to like her, okay? This was just wacky doodle crazy. So next we go through the magical forest, because again, we still believe the Poland Spring of Power is in Alb. And so they get a few suggestions on where to go. So they go into the mountains, they're kind of stuck in a magical forest. Ludwig almost dies. He gets some sort of, they don't know where it came from, but he got some sort of curse put on him, and he starts to becoming a tree. Freaky doodle weird. Well written though. Interesting curse. But ultimately Sylvia and Lorelai go ahead to try to find him. They find him, but then realize they're very close to where they believe the Poland Spring of Power is. And so they continue on, but leaving Adelheid, Heike, and Johann away, and also leaving Ludwig just there. They don't bring him back down and then say, hey guys, we know where to go, we're gonna go. They go, let's leave Ludwig there and see if we can get to the Poland Spring of Power. Yeah. Because that's a good idea, right? The dude's on death's doors. He's sitting there. He's about to die. He's turning into a fucking tree. But yeah, let's go find the Poland Spring of Power. And they get there. They get to the very ether power, because apparently there's ether, powerful pond or lake, whatever. It's not the Poland Spring of Power. It's the Dasani Spring of Power, actually. It's just a little bit magical. It's magical because it can be bottled. That's the only... It's the only thing... It's powerful because it won't give you dysentery. Maybe. I'm not making any claims about Dasani, by the way. You, as far as I know, you can't get dysentery from Dasani. As the Dasani Spring of Power also won't give you dysentery because it's still powerful, but it's not the Poland Spring of power. Okay, so we've reached that, and everybody's disappointed. But Lorelai looks into the Dasani Spring of Power, and she sees a vision of the Vanishing Isle. Apparently, folklorists know about this thing, but they don't actually know where it is. So she draws it in a notebook and goes, "Oh, I know what. Like, I'll show it to the others and see if anybody knows where this is." Smart of her. Smart. Maybe you could have just brought everyone. But then again, also I wouldn't bring them because, like, they're literally anti-Semitic. So any time away from them would be very nice. But I am concerned that you left Ludwig to die. So any anger they have about you leaving Ludwig to die, valid as fuck. And I just got another notification about Joseph Goebbels. What the fuck? If you're not the editor, I was on FaceTime telling her all this, and I got a notification about Joseph Goebbels. So something's up. Something's up, girl. I am gonna take a break because my phone is dying, but also I'm hungry as fuck.
A few moments later.
Where the fuck was I? So after they found out that what they thought was the Poland Spring of Power was the Dasani Spring of Power, they went back to the boat. Of course, there was some anger because, girl, you went ahead and left Ludwig to fucking turn into a tree. That's cute. That's cute. That's real cute. Anyways, they get back, and Lorelai they figure out where they should be going based on Lorelai's drawing. And so they head back, and they're like, oh, we have very little time to get there. So they full steam ahead on the boat. Of course, none of them do the actual boating. It's like a hired team, who we never meet. We never discuss. Well, the book's fucking short. I don't know why I'm like. It's important to note that this book is really short. This is only like 367 pages, if I'm correct. Yeah, 367 pages. It's short as fuck. So, I guess you don't really have time to break down everybody's story, but sure were some moments where I was like, hey, let's meet some other people. Especially to Lorelai. Let's not chill with Sylvia. Nevertheless, so Lorelai starts digging through Ziegler's stuff and finds a old notebook. Not very old, but it's old enough that it's prior to her death, so like 3 days old. And she found out that Ziegler lied. That Ziegler was actually working with Sylvia's mom to make a deal. To basically pretend that the Dasani Spring of Water was the correct one. And when Wilhelm came to claim the power, it would be viewed as stealing Alb power, and it would result in a rebellion. And Lorelai explains this to Sylvia, and Sylvia is mad because she doesn't want that. She doesn't want rebellion because we're pro-imperialist for some reason. There's a lot of shit that happens. Lots of, oh, you betrayed me, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Like, the whodunit was not whoduned it. It was just, oh, we're all fighting now. We're all upset. Cool. There was no, like, grand reveal. It was like, she went, the killer went, yeah, it was me.
Bruh.
Okay, girl. Like, okay. So surprise, killer was revealed, and it's Adelheid. Ooh. And the thing she wanted was anti-imperialism. That's right. The bad person, the evil character, she's anti-imperialist. So basically, she wanted to find the Poland Spring of Power, and use that power to rebel against Wilhelm, because she was like, do you guys seriously believe, Sylvia and Lorelai genuinely believe that this man is going to keep peace? It always ends in war. My people have suffered. And I am going to be 100% honest here. From the little we get about Adelheide's people, like, background, unless I'm confusing with Heike. No, I think it was Adelheid. Adelheide's homeland sounds decimated by Wilhelm's rule. Like, it sounds like a horrible place to be. I look at Sylvia and I look at Adelheide's, like, homeland, and it's like, Adelheid, you have reason to be upset. Sylvia, why you acting like your home is decimated, girl? Calm the fuck down. Telling a literal Jew pre-Holocaust Germany that you don't understand. I'll get to this later. I'm just ranting at this point. So basically, they all are beefing now. Everybody's beefing. And so they get to the Vanishing Isle. They get on it. And all of this is happening within like 100 pages of the end. So we're beefing. And then Sylvia and Lorelai trick the others. Heike is just following along because she's in love with Adelheid, because while this may be pretty, like, kind of low-key Nazi Germany, being gay is not a crime. Which was 100% a crime, and, like, would send you to a death camp. But, nevertheless, Johann's killed by magical creatures. Slay got rid of the mega Nazi, the fucking Joseph Goebbels. We got rid of Joseph Goebbels, aka Johann. And so he died. And so they get to the spring, Sylvia and Lorelai. They have a big ass battle with Adelheid. And low-key Heike, because Heike's not sure what to do with herself, because, like, she's been lied to by Adelheid, she's been lied to by everyone, like, she doesn't know what to do with herself. Again, kind of a useless character. But most importantly to the romance line, they get to this Poland Spring of Power earlier than, so they fuck. And then and then Adelheid's defeated because Sylvia drinks the water from the Poland Spring of Power. So now she's very powerful. And they get back. Wilhelm does not seem upset by this. He's like, oh, you drank it? Oh, but you pledge allegiance to me and my people? Okay. All right, that's fine. You go be Duchess. We're going to exile your mother. And Sylvia's like, yeah, exile my mother. Yeah, she wanted freedom for my people. She's a fucking piece of shit. I'm sorry.
Huh?
She wants to be not like the others, that her people have been oppressed. But she also wants to stay under the rule of the people that oppressed her people, apparently. Great. This makes sense. This all makes so much sense. I am 100% sure of everything that's going on. They get back, and you'd think, okay, Lorelai has completed her mission, and so she has some sway. She must demand rights for her people and try to get them out of the open-air prison. No, Wilhelm goes to her and says, you are now permitted to live outside the open-air prison. Thank you. Thanks. You're allowed to live outside the open-air prison, and you will basically be one of my advisors. And she goes, great. And she moves out of the prison and never sees her family again, apparently, because we never discussed that. Apparently she just, like, fucking leaves and starts working for Wilhelm. And then Sylvia comes back from doing all her politicking, and they do the whole, I sent letters to you, and you never responded, and then I didn't think you wanted to hear from me. You just left me. And then, of course, Sylvia goes, will you marry me? And she goes, yeah. And so we never actually get a resolve for, like, Lorelai mentions a few times that, like, it's core for her people to protect themselves and for justice, and she fails on both counts because, like, we walk out of this like, oh, Lorelai got freedom, but let's just leave her family and all her people to die and suffer. So yeah, that's literally what we leave with. Yeah, there's no justice for her people, not an ounce of it, not an ounce. And Sylvia had said earlier after they fucked, I want what's right for your people. So if I will do everything I can for your people. We never see the end of that. We never see that. We never. And also, in my opinion, that is fucking useless if it only is something that's important to you after you have had sex with that person or are in a relationship with that person. Like, okay, cool, big whoop. You only care about that because we've been in a relationship. And I see it no differently than Adelheid having said to Lorelai, I will free your people. And then later being like, I just said that to try to get you to help me. I see that the same as Sylvia's thing. Oh, I'll help your people because you're one of them and I love you. And never following through. So that's cool. So that's the story. And when I told the story to said editor, she went, that's it?
That can't be it. Where's the rest of it?
Yep. And I know she's sitting there right now. And they're looking at me and going, oh, you didn't forget anything that first time. That's genuinely just the end of it, right? Yeah. Yeah. So let's break down a few things. Now I want to remind everyone that I did have some what was good. And that was the whodunit at first. The whodunit at first was fun. And it was like, I genuinely didn't know. I didn't know. There was never a moment where I was sure of who did it, which I think is very respectable. I think that if you can write a story where the whodunit is truly like a whodunit, I think that's really cool. And I think she did a great job with that. And the other thing, the creatures. The magical creatures were everything. Literally, at a certain point, I was like, I really just, like, at the, like, once we realized that the Poland spring was the Dasani spring, I was like, oh my god, I'm so fucking done with this. But I know there's going to be more magical creatures, so I want to continue so that I can see them. My favorites were the one that, like, is essentially a sleep paralysis demon. Like, it comes in and, like, kills you when you're asleep. And she wakes up, Lorelai wakes up, and realizes it's in her room, and that somebody had taken the ward off her door, which we also never figure out who did that. We never figure out who took the ward off the door. So there's a plot hole there. Like, who did that? Probably Adelheid or Johann, because Johann was, like, obsessed with Adelheid, so he just did everything that Adelheid said to do. Like, he was in on it the whole time. But, probably, but I don't think we ever get that answer 100%. So, but this creature, if you offer it coffee, like a cup of coffee, it will leave you alone, which I think is so funny. So she's laying there and she goes, you want coffee? And it goes, yes, please. So she gets out of bed and leads it into the kitchen and makes it a cup of coffee. And it leaves her alone for a while. And I'm pretty sure I was a little confused at this part, but I think it came back as a mimic pretending to be Ludwig in the magical forest. And she was like, yo, what the fuck are you doing here? And it was like, I said I'd come back. So I'm back. And she was like, if you leave us alone, I'll give you, like, an entire pot of coffee. Or if you, like, help us kill the Adelheid, I will give you an entire pot of coffee. And it goes, aight, cool, epic. And it leaves her they also have lindworms, which were cool, like these giant freaky worms, like a dune worm. It was like a dune worm, essentially. And then my other favorite one was they're going through the magical forest near, I believe, the Dasani Spring, and they they hear screaming, and they're already looking for Ludwig, and they're like, it's like Ludwig's out there, and he's screaming, he's in trouble, and so they start running to try to find Ludwig, and they come into a clearing, and there's like a river, and there's just like a magical creature standing there posing in the water, like being all fancy, and then it turns out that this magical creature just like is like an absolute gossip hound and like knows there are people here and wants to fuck with them. And so he hears everything and sees everything. And then he was like, oh, they're here. Let me freak them the fuck out. And so he just starts screaming to bother them. And they're like, yo, which way did this guy go? Like, which way did Ludwig go? And he was like, I don't know. And so Sylvia pulls out a shiny little bell and gives it to him, and he goes, he went that way. Yeah. Can you tell us how to get to this spring? I don't know. Pulls out another bell. If you go that way, and then there's going to be a diversion in the thing, you go left, and then you go through this giant crevasse, and it's there. Yeah. Bye. Literally just wants a little shiny bell. So respectable. So I really loved the creatures. I thought they were fun. I thought they were interesting. I did enjoy the integration of Jewish culture in it and Jewish folklore. I think that it's such a nice thing to see in books when you see folklore of different backgrounds in books. I think it's just really enjoyable. And I think it is well done in this book. I'm not going to deny that. But I think the pro-imperialist end really just made it feel horrible. Like, I got to the end and I was like, okay, so we don't actually care about our people. We're like, come on. Are we being serious? So there was that. So that was the good part. And let's go over the problems with the world building. I have no fucking clue how the magic works. Yeah, that's right. I read this over 300-page book, and at no point am I 100% sure what the fuck the magic system is. So I think... So they're like, oh, some people can like channel ether and magic. Some people can, some people can't. Everybody has some form of like ability. But like Ludwig doesn't have it, but Johann has it, and Lorelei has it, and Sylvia technically has it, but she refuses to use it. And then Heike doesn't, Adelheid does, Ziegler doesn't, Wilhelm doesn't. He must if he thinks he can channel the power of the Poland Spring of Power. I don't know. And it's all water. It's just water. But then apparently we have curses like the one Ludwig got that like can turn you into a tree. So I don't like some creatures like channel like earth power. So I have no clue. I have no clue how this magic system's supposed to work. I am just absolutely out of my depth. Next is, there is not a single goddamn map in this book, and that's usually not a complaint for me. I usually am like, okay, if you don't need a map, you don't need a map. This book desperately needed a map. Like, we are getting detailed descriptions of, like, stuff, and then we're also like, oh, we're in Alb, and we need to get to this, like, giant, like, fucking lake in this other area, and it takes so long to get there. But then we also have a bit of a time skip between those locations. And so I actually don't know how hard it was to get there. And apparently they're going full steam, but they still managed to get there. Like if we had a map, I would be able to flip to the beginning and go, oh, holy shit, that's really far away. But I couldn't. I had no basis of where it was going. And that's a minor thing. Like, ultimately, it's just when it compounds with the shitty magic system, it's really, really hard to, like, engage with it. Like, it's really hard to just, like, engage with all of that. And then this one really irks me. I get that it's YA, which I learned after. This is apparently a YA book. It was in regular romance at my bookstore. But that's better than the other way around. Way better than the other way around. Shout out Court of Roses and Thorns, whatever the fuck that Sarah J. Maas was. That used to be in the young adult section. Did you know that? I did, because I read it when I was like 16. And yeah, sure, I was old enough to read it. No, I wasn't. There's graphic shit in that book. Like I look back and I remember reading it. I remember sitting there and going, I'm too young to be reading this. Like, I'm too young for this. Like, anyways, that is a side tangent. Why is everybody in this goddamn book so young? Wilhelm is young. All these motherfuckers are literal children. But then apparently they went to war? Like, Sylvia talks like, she's like, I haven't used magic since the war. Girl, you're like 20? I think. 24 maybe? I don't know. But you're in your 20s. When did you go to war? We need to break down the fact that means that some of y'all were child soldiers. Also, why is Lorelai unaware of this war? Why does she never talk about said war? What is this war we're talking about? Is it the war for Alb? But apparently Johann was there. But they've been friends since they were kids, so they must have been fighting along the same side. So it couldn't be the war for Alb, because that would mean that Sylvia was fighting against them. But she wasn't. And they all fought together against... And then, who were we fighting? Who are we warring? Like, and why y'all so young? Like, I get it. Like, you want your readers, especially if it's YA, to be able to connect to the characters. But y'all went to war? We need to talk about child soldiers now. Like, you can't put these things into the book and then just not talk about them. That's not what world building is. You gotta address it somehow. And yeah, Sylvia goes, yeah, I haven't used my magic since the war. The war was very hard on me. What war? What were we warring over? I don't know. Okay. I need to bring everything back in. Because I'm about to get heated again. Because we're going over Sylvia and why she is an absolute horrible love interest. And I am offended that she was made one. And that this was allowed to occur.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
It's important to note that Sylvia fails to ever see or, like, acknowledge that Lorelai is, like, fundamentally suffering more. And yeah, like, you shouldn't compare oppression. This isn't the Oppression Olympics. Or for them it is. Because most of their conversation, like, they don't actually get together until, like, the last 75 pages. Like, they, for all accounts, hate each other. And they regularly argue about, like, how they fundamentally can't get along. Because Sylvia regularly says things like, you don't understand my struggle, you don't understand what my people have been through. You're saying this to a functionally a literal genocide. Actually, not functionally. You are, Sylvia, you are saying this to a victim of genocide. And you are complaining about the fact that your mother bought you everything but didn't see who you were at your core. To someone whose brother was lynched right in front of her. It will sound silly, I'm sure, Sylvia settled onto one hip, turning to face Lorelai. I'm skipping all the romantic shit. My mother showered me with affection, or at least with extravagances. Anything I wanted, I received. But from an early age, I got the sense that all my mom saw when she looked at me was the color of my hair, her little albished folk hero. a saint born again, her heir, her province's future, hers, hers, hers. And I just wrote, oh, Muffin, it must be so hard to be you. Mom loves me versus my brother died. My brother was lynched. We can't be having this. We cannot be having this. This is not appropriate at any stage. And she never apologizes for that. Like, let's think about that. She never apologizes for the fact that through majority of this book, and also the 12 years prior that they were in school together, she has diminished the struggles of Lorelai. Never addresses that. She, again, doesn't actively fight anti-Yavanism. I'm saying that as anti-Semitism. Even in the end, they're not saying, oh, let's work with Wilhelm to let your people free. That is never a conversation. They just go, she just goes, after they've had sex, I'll do everything I can for your people. Who the fuck you didn't? If marrying Lorelai is everything you can do, you're absolute shit. You use that Poland spring of power for absolute jack shit. Honey, what? And it's clear at a certain point, I will say, that the message is that love isn't like a fairy tale, and you're not bound to your identity. Because Lorelai says a lot, I don't understand how someone like me, who has had a life like me, can be with someone who's a literal princess. She's like, I don't think I'm worthy. And the message is, you are. You're worthy of love, however that looks. But when that person has regularly and consistently shown that she does not empathize with you, does not understand your culture, is not willing to put in that effort, then it's null. Because if you're not compatible, you're not compatible. And listen, I read enemies to lovers before. It's a thing, and it can be really well done. But in Sylvia's case, there's a fundamental issue. That's the issue with this, to me. This isn't academic rivals to lovers. This is a fundamental core understanding of who you are. Lorelai's identity is important to who she is as a person. It has caused things in her life. It has been the kind of framework for her identity as Yavani is a framework of who she is. It's essential to who she is. It's there are so many people in my life that their identity, their culture is important to who they are. And if I were to completely dismiss it, yeah, maybe we would be acquaintances, but I wouldn't say I was being a good friend or even a good partner. I wouldn't be a good partner if I was just oh, that's really hard. And I said that once. That wouldn't make me a good partner ever. And it feels to me, and I know that no one's taking big messages out of this, I don't think, I really hope not, but a message being that it kind of subconsciously feels like it's saying it doesn't really matter. Especially when we leave this book with Lorelai not doing anything to support her people. There is not a moment where we go, and I go back and I try to bring money into the Yavani quarter. I'm fighting with Wilhelm every single day to try to bring rights to my people. We don't end on that. We don't end on that message. We end on, let's go get married, and I'll go live in Alb with my wife, and my people are still going to live in the open air prison. It eliminates any sort of okayness or comfort or excitement that you feel about this romantasy. I'm reading this again and I'm going, girl! So they're standing in front of the Poland Spring of Power, and Lorelai says, like, we could tell him we didn't find it. Sylvia says, I confess the same thing crossed my mind. And then Lorelai said, we can take it for ourselves. Sylvia's smile dropped. Oh? If it was convenient for him, he would turn on either one of us. We know who he'd turn on first. Because throughout this whole thing, Sylvia's convinced that if they come back without the Poland Spring of Power, she'll be blamed for the entire trip failure. And it's like, maybe. Yeah. After everything they'd seen, not even Sylvia could summon an argument in his defense. Yes, I suppose he would, but protecting him is the best way to ensure stability. Besides, do you truly want to wield that kind of power? Lorelai says, I don't. If it is to be one of us, it should be you. It has to be you. No? It should be you, girl! Use it to free your people! Be selfish! Come on, girl! What's with all this self-hatred? This is a pro-imperialist book, girl. This is pro-imperialist! I can't believe I finished this book. There were so many moments where I was like, am I going to finish this? Am I going to put myself through this? And I did. So, I hope this wasn't just an angry rant and that there was something of value in this. And I hope that, if anything, I hope there's a message of like, hey, authors, let's think about the deeper message when we're writing romantasy, because I understand that some stuff can just be erotica. You can just write erotica. But if you're gonna have heavy things like this, we can't be flippant about it. And this felt flippant. This felt flippant, and like there was a romance story, and then an editor came to her and said, hey, we need some darker tones in this. And this popped out. And it's unfortunate because the writer is talented. So maybe when I read Far Wilder Magic, I'll make a video and just be like, hey, this was actually really good, and here's why. Or Girly Pop, what the fuck? But I do have trust that this author is a good author, and I'm not going to degrade the author in that way. I'm degrading this book. I'm degrading this pro-imperialist book. So I'm going back to reading my Adrian Tchaikovsky book, because very diverse. This book, diversity, yeah, there's diversity, but it ended up being pro-imperialist. Yikes! I still can't believe that like I walked out of it and going,
Huh?
I need to think of another book to read that would be interesting to talk about. I mean, I have, because I bought it before I realized that On the Cerulean Sea or whatever was inspired by, what is it called? The 60s Scoop, which is just like, oh, what it is, like Indigenous children being stolen from their family. The 60s Scoop has too much of a ring to it. And talk about like the book, and then also like do a little bit of a history lesson on that and why inspiration of events like that by someone who didn't have direct experience with them is, I don't want to say problematic, but is messy, and it takes away, that sometimes fantasy can take away from reality. I think that's also the message of this. I think that fantasy has the power to show stories in a different light, but if not given the correct reverence, they can instead trivialize the original and can send incorrect messages on the reality of the circumstances. I think that's the message of this, and so maybe that would be a good choice. But I also have some other really interesting books that I'm going to read, and so I think we'll see what comes up. Also, I've had this pimple on my face the entire time. That's cute. All right. Bye. It's Brunenstad. Brunenstad. I said Brunenstad. If you're watching this, can you go back through and replace whenever I said the incorrect saying and replace it with Brunenstad? Never mind.